15 minutes late. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on Beamable Network CEO and co-founder, the man himself, John Radoff. So in case you guys were unaware, right before I bring him out, I'm going to do a quick elevator pitch. What are we talking about today? We're talking about Beamable. Beamable Network brings $35 billion gaming infrastructure sector to you and bringing it on chain to massively reduce the cost to run games. So Beamable Network is already servicing 10 billion monthly API calls to over 90 live games and 2 million monthly players. Beamable replaces costly centralized backends with a distributed, decentralized plug-and-play infrastructure that's faster and more resilient, and also up to 50% cheaper to operate. So I will let John do the rest of the pitching from there. But without further ado, let's bring him in from backstage. Are you there, John?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. I know you're very busy, so we burned 15 minutes of your time. So apologies for that. This is only our second time using this streaming software. So for our next one on, we're actually going to be using a different platform, but we decided to stick with this one for this one, which is probably was not a wise decision in hindsight, but when it's live, it's live. So there you go. We can edit it in post though, so it'll start from here, and this will make no sense to other people, but to all you people tuning in live, sorry for the delays. So, John, great to see you again. We actually chatted like, I think it was about 6 months ago on the verified X space that we did because Beamable Network is a Deepin Hub verified project, meaning that you guys were transparent enough to actually go through an entire due diligence process with us and you scored high enough to pass and receive the verified badge on Deepin Hub, putting you in that top tier category of Deepin projects. But today we're not going to talk about verification. We're not going to talk about that. There's some big news on your side, I know, related to nodes, related to tokens and TGE. So we're going to get into that today. But before we do that, why don't we step back? I'll let you introduce yourself and tell all of our audience out there a little bit about what is Beamable Network.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And it's awesome to be back here. I'll start with just the headlines on Beamable. I'll share a little bit about myself. I'll dive into what I think the big macro trends are that we're a part of. But in short, Beamable is a network for supplying the compute needs to the game industry. So the game industry, for those who don't know, it's the biggest media category we've got. It's $200 billion a year of consumer spend. And as you were just mentioning in your intro, that industry is spending about $35 billion a year on infrastructure, meaning game servers and things in the cloud and things that do everything from multiplayer coordination to machine learning to social systems, payment systems, all of that is the online part of the game. So a game is really two pieces, the front end and the back end. The front end is graphics, it's 3D, it's the experience that you have. There's things like Unreal Engine and Unity for that. The back end doesn't have anything nearly that cohesive yet, but that's what we're building at Beamable, essentially the Unity or the Unreal Engine, but of the cloud, of game servers. So that's what we've been building. But the next stage of our evolution that's really exciting is we're moving off of centralized infrastructure, taking those 100-ish customers that we've already signed up that are already generating massive amounts of traffic online with 2.5 million users last month. We're taking them to the Deepin network that we're launching in really just over a couple of weeks. So there's a lot going on with that. But just to kind of zoom the camera lens out, this is a really important change because if you have been on the internet this week, you probably saw some of your websites, your bank, Instacart, Snapchat, Fortnite. These are all things that went offline. Why? Because all of those are examples of companies that rely more or less on one centralized provider, in that case, Amazon. And Amazon is great, by the way. They've helped us all build a lot of things. So I don't even want to take that much away from them, but it has exposed a lot of cracks in this industry. One is high cost. Another is there really has never been any ecosystem that's developed around it. And the third is that centralized risk. So these are all problems that Deepin solves. And in the broader context, it's part of this trend we're calling internet capital markets, which is how do you take these various services and assets, and compute is really an asset. It's value online. It's like the energy that powers the internet, but unlike energy, we don't yet have a liquid market for it. So Online in these internet capital markets, we're now creating a compute capital market where compute itself becomes a resource that can be provisioned automatically, streamed and paid for, used, traded, lended against, hedged, all of those things that you can do once you actually create it as an asset class. And Beamable is pioneering the process to doing that. And we've chosen as our foothold in this market, in the compute capital markets, the game industry. Why? Part of it is the size of it. It's got a lot of scale, but this is the most demanding, spiky, weird part of internet software development that you can imagine. It has really tough requirements. It has to scale way up and way down. And it has really interesting customers around it with 3 billion people playing games. And by the way, when we talk about games in this context, I always got to be careful. Like Beamable is not making a gaming token. Gaming tokens are tokens to like support a particular game or maybe a network of games. We're talking about something much different. First of all, it's infrastructure. It's not a gaming token, and it's the infrastructure needs that are across this entire industry. It's Web 2 games and Web 3 games. And right now, Web 3, while it may in fact grow, and we have some awesome Web 3 games building on our platform, most of the traffic in this industry and most of the traffic on Beamable is Web 2, as it should be. And we want to support everybody, regardless of your business model. You want to make a Web3 game? Great. If you want to build a free-to-play mobile game, that's awesome. PC game, console game, VR game, web game, it's all fine. And we want to support you as a game developer, no matter what your creative vision is. And the way to do that is not to dictate the business model. So this is infrastructure that any of these game studios, any of these game developers can provision very economically, and it works right out of the box. It works in the tools they already use. They don't have to become a Web3 expert. In fact, they don't have to know anything about blockchain. You download our SDK either for Unreal Engine, for Unity, or for a JavaScript native like web SDK. That's all you use. And then you start building. You build the game, you focus on the fun. You don't have to worry about how you're going to scale out to your millions of players that you're hopefully going to have. So that's the mission behind it. We certainly have a lot of exciting things coming in terms of nodes, token launch, all of that stuff. But that's what we've been building, by the way, for 5 years. So I think last comment, problem with too many DeepIn projects is they focus on supply and hope that the demand materializes. We've done the opposite. We've spent 5 years building up demand, building up relationships in the demand, focusing on the hard work of building those customer relationships. Like when I spoke, I have my own live stream. I talked to Amir, the CEO of Helium, and asked him, what's harder about your business? And he's like, well, kind of the boring stuff, conversion rates, funnels, customer acquisition costs. Like it's a whole set of skills that frankly, almost every crypto startup has to learn in terms of real demand. I'm not talking about token go to market, but actual demand for your platform. That's something that we've gotten pretty good at, and it'll remain a very hard job that we have to keep focusing on in years to come. And that's what we bring to the table to DeepIn and internet capital markets is established demand, relationships with customers in a big industry that's growing.
I love it. I love all of that. All right. Well, thank you, John, for that pretty extensive background on Beamable and the entire problem and solution in the market and what differentiates you guys. And I just love that DeepIn is now at that stage where there are these projects that are maturing into, using this terminology and actually focusing on normal everyday business challenges and issues. That just shows that like the promise is now being made real, where yes, you can utilize tokenomics to align incentives and have massive advantages on your initial CapEx or your ongoing OpEx. And essentially it's just a business model revolution that allows these companies to scale faster or more competitively. But it shouldn't be the like here all end all of the company where everything is just about pushing a token. Like it's not a DeFi project, right? And so a lot of DeepIn projects, just like you said, they get stuck in that supply side part of the chicken and the egg game, and then they don't really have a chance to grow out of it. And really the magic happens when you have that supply and now you have your competitive advantage locked in, and then you can actually go out and be a real business. And so you guys like already nailed that part from the onset. There's a few other projects out there that we've been talking to that have been doing great jobs, from like GeoNet to XYO to a lot of other companies as well that are maybe not getting quite as much media coverage as some of the people who are really pushing the token. But in the long run, it's going to be those guys and companies like you that will stick around. So really happy to see that. I think it's a great opportunity for our listeners as well, because GameFi and the gaming industry is huge and it's very sexy in crypto. But what you guys are doing, just like you said, is it's an infrastructure play. It's like the pick and shovels play around the gaming industry. So super cool. Um, Thank you for that. So just as a little order of housekeeping, because I'm sure some of the people attending right now are aware and might be concerned, we are running a little quest related to this AMA that you all are watching right now. So the rules are on Deep in Hub's X page. It's also in our Discord. I think we had a link in our newsletter. So it's in various places, but you can find it on the X, I think right below this stream. And the way that it works is by you sharing this AMA, which you can do right now, or you can do afterwards, because there will be recordings saved on different socials, which is YouTube, LinkedIn, X. You need to share it, take a screenshot or the link of that share, and then you also need to take a screenshot of you actually being in attendance, actually watching it, actually joining. If you want to leave a comment, you can also do that if you want to leave like a comment on X and take a screenshot, but some proof that you were here. And then you need to share these two things in our Discord. We have a special channel, a Beamable AMA Quest channel for you. Share those. And then the last thing is you need to reach level 4 in our evolution point system, which isn't that hard. Spoiler alert. It's basically just you create an account with us, you follow our socials, you connect a wallet, something else. It's pretty easy to get to level 4. It's 4 and beyond where it starts getting a bit hard. So if you have those 3 things, you will automatically be enrolled in a giveaway. We're going to be giving out some sweet, sweet BMB tokens. So you're going to be looking at 25 of you will win that. But on top of that, everyone who is attending will have access to a special code, which is going to, and we're going to let John talk way more about this than me right now. I'm just glossing over it. But there is a node sale going on with Beamable right now, their checker node sale. And you all are going to get access to the private sale pricing, which is a special pricing mainly for institutional investors, which I'm assuming most of you are not, which will give you a beneficial pricing and beneficial vesting periods on an additional little bonus token unlock as well. So you're going to be winning on like 3 different accounts at the same time by joining this today. So just pay attention to that as we go. But I'll stop talking about that now. I'm going to hand it back to John. So I've hinted at it already, John, but what is going on lately in the world of Beamable around this checker node sale, around a token launch? What would you like to tell our viewers about that?
Yeah, I guess we should talk a little bit about the different kinds of nodes we have and how it all works together. But we have 2 types of nodes that are worth talking about today. So there's the worker node. Worker nodes are where the actual work happens. So, meaning if you have a game server and it has to do computation for a gameplay session or multiplayer orchestration or all these things that happen in the cloud, then that work is sent over to the worker nodes, and that's where most work happens. Within the protocol, we think of it as essentially like an order book where the people who operate worker nodes can say, here's what we want to charge for access to this compute infrastructure that a game needs. And the game says, here's what we're willing to pay. And it matches that. And then game servers are provisioned. And when you pay for those services, all of the payment goes directly to the worker node operator. There's also a network fee. So there's a network fee that's added on top of that, which if you're using native token, it's very, very low. 2% of native token is just added on top. That is just a network fee that goes to the protocol to help fund operations. If you prefer to use stablecoin, which frankly many in the game industry just want sort of the simplicity of stable pricing, you can also do that. So you pay with a stable coin, but in that case, there's a fee of 15 to 20%. And that is also goes to the protocol to fund it, but we use half of that to fund buybacks of the tokens. So I think, first of all, one of the key things with designing a protocol that's really going to work for everybody, for all the stakeholders up and down the stack, whether you just hold the token, whether you're one of these game studios, whether you're various node operators, is just aligning all the incentives and making sure it's going to work. And that, I believe, comes from thinking about what are the business fundamentals of the protocol, like what makes it successful as a business, so to speak. Like what's the revenue, what's the actions that need to be taken there, and then how do you actually align that with the protocol itself in a way? Because if you don't do that, all your token is a meme coin, right? So what we've done with Beamable is thought through how the protocol uses the token, what people pay for, and how we can use that to ultimately become a deflationary token, have a reduction in the circulating supply over time of the number of tokens available, which we think can potentially drive value accrual. So that's how we think of that. And the last part of it, which you brought up, was checker nodes. So checker nodes are a little bit different than worker nodes. So worker nodes in the game industry, if you're a AAA game, you want to make sure that's in secure infrastructure. It can be highly scalable. Like these are pretty serious, heavy duty servers, which have to be qualified before they can join the network as a worker node. Checker nodes have the job of making sure that all those worker nodes are operating honestly. They need to make sure that when a game provisions services, that what they provisioned actually matches what was delivered, and they're part of the consensus algorithm that makes sure that the work was delivered, that it was paid for fairly, and so that the worker node can get paid. They also do some other jobs like quality of service measurement, latency measurements. That's why it's also very important to have it be globally distributed so that we can get QoS data all around the world relative to those worker nodes. So those are the two nodes that we have at launch. What is the token used for? It's used for paying for services. It's used for staking, because staking is important within the network to add security to those worker nodes. It's used for governance. Those are the primary purposes. And then checker nodes are a node that anybody can operate really on retail hardware. You could even run this thing on a Raspberry Pi. Anything that could take a Docker image can run the checker node image, which makes it very accessible. We also have node as a service platforms that can operate it for you as well. For example, on Infstones, if you want to just be able to have a third party run it and not even have to think about it. So that's the overall architecture. What have we got coming down the pipe? So we sold a small quantity of checker nodes it was about a couple of months ago. And we did that to kind of test systems, test node operations platforms, sales channels, all of that stuff. Now we're opening up that again so that more people, we sold that out. Now we're looking for other people that would like to participate. We're particularly interested, by the way, in people who can help us get it more globally distributed, have more places around the world. We really want to have that saturation so the quality of service measurements are really strong all over the world. And we're opening that up again. You mentioned some of the incentives that we've got for people who want to learn about it through DPIN Hub and participate in the sale. That's the node side of things. And then, yes, we're doing a TGE. So we're taking on a lot at once here, but we're about to announce dates around that. But I'll share some alpha in the channel right now, which is we're talking very early in November. Like very early in November, there's going to be a TGE of this token. And we're going to be a native Solana launch. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to be able to share a lot more very specific details literally tomorrow. So stay tuned. Follow me. Follow DPIN Hub. I think we'll probably share some information. Follow Beamable Network on X. Like you're not going to be able to miss it if you're on those channels. But we partnered with really great DEX platforms, with pre-sale platforms, so you'll be able to participate in an on-chain purchase of some of the tokens. And it's going to be a pretty limited fraction of our supply, frankly. But that's coming next. So all these things are hitting at once. TGE, pre-sale, some additional nodes. We are booting up this whole network, and then we're going to be starting to move over that built-in demand that we've got in Beamable over to the DPIN. So worker nodes aren't going to be sitting there. Worker nodes are going to have work to do right out of the gate. Checker nodes are going to have things to verify and check quality of service on, almost immediately. The token is going to have immediate utility because, we're launching something that we want to operationalize and put out there.
Very nice, very nice. Okay. That is a lot of news and a lot of things to be doing at the same time. So hats off to everyone yourself included, and everyone on the Beamable Network team, because I'm sure you guys have been really, really busy this year. So, but I'm sure
No,
it's all going to kick off super well. Yeah, there seems to be like you can feel, I mean, the market's been all over the place, right? Like it's just and heavily manipulated as of late. Everyone's just mainly talking about ETFs and what's been going on with BTC and ETH and kind of the typical stuff that now the entire public media and typical news, feed has picked up on. But if you look at that with altcoins, it hasn't really quite like altcoin season didn't really quite come. But what's cool is that Deepin has kind of had its own bullish news cycle where there's been, the SEC just deemed that basically Deepin tokens are used for labor. So you don't have to worry about the Howey test anymore. It's not a security. That's fantastic. And it makes, I think also, especially for like Americans, for instance, that want to participate in some of these node sales and TGEs and stuff, it gives them a sense of reassurance. So I think that was huge for Deepin. And we're just seeing in general, there's a lot of Deepin projects really starting to accelerate and taking off and that are tackling issues that are now all over the public eye, whether it's decentralized GPUs for building AI workloads, or whether it's doing DERs, just decentralized or distributed energy resources for handling that need for more electricity that AI is also bringing on. And then this is all connected also to how do people entertain and consume these tools, which is gaming, and what is the infrastructure behind that. And so I'm seeing Deepin now popping up to actually solve a lot of these really hard problems that are all kind of getting propelled forward by the tailwind of what's going on in the macro environment. So regardless of like, is BTC dipping, like what's going on right now, I think Deepin is actually having a really good year. And then physical AI and robotics is also another major tailwind with that. So I think it's an exciting place to be. I think the time is right for what you're doing. So you have that in your favor, regardless of the little bi-weekly little market dips and ticks. But very exciting stuff. So just to reiterate again to people, because I wasn't super clear in the first one, just to make it a little bit more clear. So it's first come, first serve with the quests, meaning that we're not going to do a random draw. So the first 25 of you to have the snip of your presence here, to have a link to you resharing this AMA, posting it in our Discord, and then we will obviously verify before we select the winners that you do have level 4 in our point system. And by the way, we're going to come up with some ways this week to actually help you accelerate your points if you're a little bit behind. The first 25 people to do that will be selected for 350 BMB tokens. You will need to pay $4 for the NFT. There's a pre-mint on an NFT, which gets you on the whitelist spot. So then you have the whitelist spot. So just be aware of that. But it's $4 to make, I think, a lot more bucks. So it's very, very worth it. On top of that, all of you who have the discount code, which is in our Discord, will get $50 off, give or take, the regular node sale price that all of those non-chads are going to be paying when the public sale goes live. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a 2,500 BNB special bonus, which has a unique vesting period of only 90 days. So you're going to be benefiting, again, like I said before, in 3 different ways. So remember, though, it is first come, first serve, but everyone who's joining will get access to the special private sale node pricing. So that's for all of you. And big thanks to John and team, because that was them being generous and them showing love back to the Deepin Hub community as well. So thank you guys. I will stop there for now, and we will do 2 things. So number 1, if people want to leave questions, feel free to leave them in the chats of whatever streaming or whatever platform you're using to watch this stream. I think most of you are on X. So feel free to leave questions directly in those comments. Like if you have questions for John, this is a great time for you because he's here, and we've already kept him probably too long because we were really late to start. So take advantage of the time we have. So that's number 1. Feel free to leave those. We will get to those at the very end. And then number 2 is back to you, John. You gave actually quite a good walkthrough of sort of the utility of the token, some of the plans going forward. Is there any other newsworthy bits of information you would like to share, calls to action, or other things that people should be aware of before we end this?
I mean, I would say, first of all, absolutely go into the Deepin Hub Discord, and I believe that's where all the information is to take advantage of the special offer, right? But so if you're watching this, definitely go over there. That's where our friends at Deepin Hub are sharing that information, so you can take part. But keep your eye out for that token pre-sale. So we really want people who believe in this part of the industry to be there and amongst the first token holders, because that's what makes sense. It comes back to what I was referring to earlier, which is you want incentive alignment from everybody. And there's no better way to do that than making sure that everybody who's operating nodes, people who own the token, they're all aligned in this vision of transforming the capital market for compute. It's got to be like energy. You got to be, or water, frankly. You got to be able to open up the faucet and get all the compute you want and have that operate at a protocol level. It's just got to be built into the internet so that if you write software, you can just pull in all the compute that you need, and it's just writing more lines of code into your application instead of what you do now, which is sign up, do contracts, make big commitments. And then if they go down, you're offline. This really is transformative. It makes compute resources part of the process of developing software in the internet. So we kind of started in the old days of like you owned the computers yourself and ran it in your little data center, but then you suddenly needed zillions of computers, and then guys came along to run it for you, and that was a great service, by the way. Like they allowed a lot of people to grow and launch. But now, did you know that if you add up the three hyperscalers, I'm referring to Amazon, GCP, Azure, and then also if you add to those three hyperscalers Meta, most of the computers that are servers on the internet are them. Like we got four companies that own the internet, basically, is one way to look at that. So I think this is a transformative movement. This gives us the ability to tokenize compute, to make it fungible, make it lines of code that you build into your software. And the Web3 side of this, the blockchain side of it, is that supply side. That's everybody who's watching this. You're here because you're used to like the crypto native talk that we have of how do you build applications, how do you build hardware components that are all fitting into DePIN and the general internet capital markets. But we got to remember that like what's cool about this market, what's really compelling and scalable about this market is our customer is not crypto native. They may not even know a thing about blockchain. They may have never installed a wallet, right? So building these networks and these protocols so that they can take advantage of it, that to me is what's exciting about it, because now we can actually start transforming internet capabilities with blockchain. So it's kind of wanted to end there. But if that's part of what you're interested in, then definitely follow me on X, J Radoff, follow Beamable Network, and we'd love to get your interest in the token presale. We're currently filling up an allow list phase for that. So the structure of the presale is going to be that there's an allow list phase where if you let us know in advance that you wanted to participate in it, we can add you to it. We'd love to offer the opportunity for anybody in the DePIN Hub community to step in and get on that allow list. Because once the allow list phase fills up, then it just becomes the free for all. And like, historically the pre-sales that have been going recently on the platform we're using sell out in like a minute after that. So we do want to give people sort of that guaranteed allocation by joining the allow list and being part of that. So if you want to know about that, it's a little bit harder to find because we haven't even published this. You are now in the realm of alpha, right? So go on to my JRadoff feed on X. You can find it there if you just scroll down a couple of links in my feed, and you'll see a couple of things there about the pre-sale and how to fill out the pre-sale link, the little form that we've got, and that'll get you onto the allow list until it fills up. And once it fills up, we don't want to keep putting people on it because it defeats the purpose. But there will then be the public phase that people can participate in. So that's what we got. And you can find more details about the token there. And of course, encourage everybody to go over to beamable.network. You can read about the token utility, the tokenomics, the protocol design, all of that stuff. And throw me a question on X too. I'm always happy to talk to people.
Nice. Okay. Well, here, I'll put myself back on camera. There we go. So thank you for that, John. And we did get a few questions that rolled in. So while you're still here, I have to check manually on X because for some reason here from my little screen, my little command center here, I'm only seeing YouTube, and I doubt there's as many questions on YouTube as X. But what I do see on YouTube, so the people on YouTube win today. We have a question from I'm Kronzer. that rolled in a little while ago. How many tokens could a Raspberry Pi checker node make? So this is always a tough question. Remember, we do have a link to the calculator as well if you want that to support your answer. But how many tokens could a Raspberry Pi checker node make?
Yeah, that's probably the best answer, in that you can go to the calculator, and sounds like we've got the link right there in the Discord so that people can find it. So I would take a look at that. That's going to be the easiest way just to kind of forecast token emissions. But specifically, the checker nodes are not gated by the level of your hardware. You could run it on a Raspberry Pi or you could run it on a supercomputer. You don't get more tokens by having a more powerful machine behind it. So your Raspberry Pi checker is totally fine. If you found the oldest computer in your house, as long as it can take a Docker image, which is how we ship the software out for these, you could run it in your basement. That would be totally fine. It would be hard to find a computer that wouldn't be able to run a checker node. Frankly, you'd have to go way back. So don't worry about the level of the hardware. That's going to put you on an even footing with everybody else in terms of token emissions. Worker nodes are a different story. Worker nodes are more about the amount of compute, and those are data center grade compute. So that is not a licensing model for us. That's going to be a staking model. We're going to roll out more details about like what worker node staking looks like. It's actually one of the utilities of having the tokens, to be able to stake into worker nodes and participate in part of the revenue stream of specific worker nodes. That we're going to be sharing some details about over the next couple of weeks. So those have much bigger sort of asset requirements to stand them up. But checker nodes, which are super critical to the alt ecosystem, that runs on commodity hardware.
Nice. Okay, perfect. And then, well, how many? I'm trying to figure out exactly what the context of this question is. But we have another question, which is how many tokens distributed for each user? How many tokens distributed per user? I don't know if that's specifically around running a checker node, which you kind of already answered,
A
or
lot
if
of answers to that. It could be checker nodes, it could be airdrops, it could be all kinds of things that we're talking about here. I mean, for that, I would just take a look at our tokenomics on Beamable, or look at the calculator that you're referring to. That'll give you a sense of potential token emissions from a given checker node. And I think it even lets you play with math. Like, you can, like, we don't know what the token's going to trade at, I'll tell you that, because who can know that? But it lets you create your own assumptions around that to kind of forecast what you think the economic value of a node ends up being.
nice. And another question that we've had on our Discord, which I think you mentioned, John. I think you maybe kept it a little bit general, which is probably smart. But when TGE?
Early
When is the big TGE happening?
early November, we are going to be putting some announcements out like imminently, like before the end of this week. So just follow me on X. You'll get a specific date, but I can tell you that we're talking the first part of November.
Okay, so very soon. So keep your eyes peeled, have a little Halloween fun, get your candy and then come back and get, your way cooler digital gaming candy with
There you go.
Beamable Network. Yes, and it will not be a trick, but it will be a treat. So join. All right, I'm done with puns. It's too hard. I didn't sleep a lot last night. If you can't tell by these bags under my eyes, I think it's just gonna leave it there with the wordplay. That was great. Thank you so much, John. Sorry there was a bit of technical difficulties there for the first 10 minutes trying to get us live on socials. We had it was popping up with the name of our previous space. But thank you all for tuning in, especially all of you who joined. Remember, too, that this will be hosted on the same platforms where you've seen this. It's LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, and I'm sure Beamable Network will be resharing it as well to theirs. So you can always catch this. You can always play it back. If for some reason you didn't take screenshots or whatever, and you're like, oh man, I missed my chance to participate in the quest, like you can still do it in post, so don't worry about it. And like John said, remember, first of all, starve Beamable on deepenhub.io. That keeps them at the top of the ranking so that everyone can see them on the homepage. Obviously, it helps in terms of visibility. Note that they are a verified project, so they are always in that top kind of 16, 17 projects on DeepinHub because they've gone through the work of getting verified. And obviously follow them on X. Follow John as well. He's always posting cool stuff. He's also very active, I believe, on LinkedIn. So follow Beamable Network and John. Follow us at DeepinHub and Hotspotty. I mean, if you're watching this, you're probably on our X, so give that a follow. Note as well that we posted some links. You will also see these on the socials, but if you want more background information, we posted a bunch of stuff. So number one, we posted the previous kind of stuff that we did with Beamable and DeepinHub. So we have an entire AMA we did when Beamable got verified, the podcast episode that John did with Daniel, DeepinHub's co-founder. We also have a long form article, a research piece that we wrote, and a video recap that I did a while ago, which is kind of fun. But then on top of that, in terms of even more useful information, we have the rules of the quest again. And below that, we have the checker node calculator. So if you actually want to run some of your own sort of predictions or forecasts about what you might be able to earn for the work that you're putting in running these nodes, you can also go there and get a little bit of visibility into the potential earnings. So do that. You will see too that if you click the little tab on that calculator that shows that you got the private sale price, that the payback periods go way, well, they don't go up, they cut down dramatically, meaning that your ROI potential is way faster, like considerably. So click that little tab and you'll see the benefit of actually getting access to this private node sale. It's like almost a 3x probably improvement on what you would get in the public. So that's where I'm going to leave it. John, I don't know if you have any last words before you want to sign off.
That's great, Michael. Thanks for having me. I just want to say how grateful I am for being part of the DeepinHub community. You guys have been so supportive of us, whether it's online in these streams, at events like Token and Consensus, and all the stuff that we've collaborated on, and that's been great. I think there's so much that we can do together here, bringing DeepIn to the whole world and internet capital markets to the world, and it's just a pleasure and a real privilege to be on this podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and keep your eyes and ears on Beamable. Big things happening all across the DeepIn space, but especially with Beamable Network. So until next time, see you all. LFG. Enjoy the rest of your week. Ciao, ciao.